tear there on IQs. He won back-to-back IQs in one weekend last month. So that's actually what kind of catapulted him up the leaderboard. For him, this tournament's pretty important because he's not going to catch the set. We already know that. But if he can work his way into number 16 on the leaderboard, that's a big game because then he has 2 buys next week.
Right, and that's a huge deal. I mean, I'm down to only having 1 buy now, and that's fine. Like, 1 buy is a huge help, but having 2 is just unbelievable.
A Cloudfin Raptor for Dylan is where he will begin. You saw Finney start off with a Temple of Abandon. He also has a Mizium Mortars over there, Mutavault, and a Temple of Mouse as well. So he does have some removal spells. The question is, does he want to use it on this, or would you rather try to save it for a Frostburn Weird, maybe a Nightveil Spectre? Does he want to, play a Mutavault this turn to be able to Mortars this? It looks like the answer is yes, so he will Mortars the Raptor. We're passing the turn back.
I like this line. Play the Mortars now. Next turn you have access to another Mizium Mortars plus a Temple, and then next turn you can play Xenagos on a relatively empty board.
And Dylan actually has quite a few lands in his hand right now too, so an Elvish Mystic was the draw, so Finney can actually play a Mystic. Looks like he's going to fire up a Mutavault here and come across for 2 points of damage. It's a pretty risk-free attack, I think, even though he will lose his land to Rapid Hybridization. So I hope he's okay with that exchange.
I think he's more than fine with that, considering he drew an Elvish Mystic this turn too. So if now he doesn't have an untapped land next turn for Xenagos, but I mean he has a 3/3 and a 1/1.
Donegan will draw a card. Again, a couple of islands over there. Don't have a great look at the rest of his grip right now. Well, we do know that Finney does have a Xenagos over there. We know he's got a couple of lands, another Mizium Mortar. So here's a Nightveil Spectre. Finney will draw. So Sylvan Carry added. See if he wants to deploy that or not. He also has a Rakdos' Return as well.
Yeah,
so it's a pretty good hand.
I was thinking that the Mortars was probably going to just trade with 1 creature, but now since he drew Mystic and Caryatid and basically has 5 mana in play if he wants to play the Caryatid this turn, like, we might just be looking at an overloaded Mizium Mortars. And I mean, the mode that Finney wanted to use on that card changed dramatically within the span of 2 turns.
Yep. Top card's going to stay on top. It looks like, he's just going to play the easy side of this.
Yeah, I mean, that's also a possibility. But if you're going to do that, you might want to attack with the Elvish Mystic too.
Perhaps.
But
not the best sequencing on that turn.
Yeah, I mean, that could have been one of those things where you're like, well, I don't really know what I'm going to do with this card yet. And then maybe you think you're going to overload it, and then it just gets to a point where you're like, oh, no, it's way better if I just cast it now. So you miss out on a point of damage, but now he has access to 5 mana. Rakdos' Return for 3, potentially.
He's going to start maybe with an attack for 4. Again, a little unsure of himself at this point. There's the land. And he can just play Xenagos right now, but it looks like he's going to go for the grip, so he's going to get all 3 cards. So it's a Thassa and 2 lands. So Donegan's hand was not very good, so he's going to be relying on Thassa to get himself back in this game.
Yeah, I mean, definitely not the cards that you want off of Rakdos' Return, but you can't be too upset about that either.
You get to the 3 points of damage, you get to clear everything out. You're pretty far ahead. Here comes a Mutavault for 2.
Yeah, put your opponent down to Thassa and Mutavault. Like, you got to like your spot there.
Just going to play the island, pass the turn back. Will Donegan over to Finney. Finney will draw a card. It's a copy of Llanowar Waste. We'll deploy that. Can deploy Xenagos as well. So that'll come down. It's time for, I imagine, a Satyr token. And now Mutavault's going to fire up here, and it's going to be an attack for 7 points of damage. So that is a pretty good turn.
Yeah. Put Dylan down to 4 life, and it's hard to imagine a single card that Dylan could draw to get out of this.
Master of Waves isn't even that good right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's almost certainly his best card.
Yeah. Yep, but he's just going to pack it up. So Michael Finney is going to win game number 1 here over Dylan Donegan. Jund Planeswalkers up a game here very quickly on Mono Blue Devotion. It's pretty easy and straightforward, honestly.
Yeah.
Dylan's hand wasn't very good, I don't think, and it didn't come together very well either. We'll look at sideboards. I actually have Dylan's in front of me, so I will start with 3 Domestication, 3 Gainsay, 2 Negate, 2 Dissolve, 2 Dispel, a Cyclonic Rift. We also got a Jace's Ingenuity and a Jace Architect of Thought. Negate is easy to bring in. It's got a ton of targets, so 2 of those. Dissolve is a little bit more expensive of a counterspell, but I still think that has to come in here.
Yeah.
And then Dispel is actually, I think, pretty poor. I don't think much of the removal is instant speed.
Yeah, I mean, there are things like Dreadbore, Mizzium Mortars, where you would want to dispel these. You know, if they're Heroes Downfalls, you'd be like, oh, okay, you know, maybe. Yep. But ultimately, only one ultimate price. So.
Yeah, there's not, I mean, there are 4 counter spells. Investigation is bad in this matchup. Gainsay is bad, obviously. Rift is mediocre. Jace's Ingenuity, I don't think we're playing that kind of game. And then the Jace is nothing exciting.
Actually, Finney has 2 Putrefies too, but I still don't think that's enough. But yeah, like, you definitely want counter spells, and how many you want, I'm not sure. You know, being able to protect your team from an overloaded Mizzium Mortars is definitely a good thing to have, but I'm not sure if Dylan has that kind of time where he can afford to keep all that mana open and everything. Maybe the games are grindy enough that he wants Jace's Ingenuity. Maybe he wants Jace Architect of Thought also to draw some more cards. I'm not sure.
Okay. What do we see on Finney's side?
He has Golgari Charm, another Mizzium Mortars, 2 Thoughtseize, 1 Rakdos' Return, 4 Mistcutter Hydras, Oof. 1 Doomblade, 2 Scavenging Ooze, 2 Anger of the Gods, and 1 Magma Spray. So a lot of options. I think the 4 Mistcutter Hydras are the auto-include. You can play basically as much removal as you want. Magma Spray, Golgari Charm, Mizzium Mortars, Doomblade, all doing decent work. Anger of the Gods, also an option. Scavenging Ooze can clean up all the creatures that you kill and provide its own little threat, gain you some life back. So a lot of options. I'm not sure if he's going to try and like weaken the impact that Tidebinder Mage has against him. There are things like Golgari Charm and Anger of the Gods that are pretty good, but sweep away your own Elvish Mystics. But maybe if you're already trying to take out Elvish Mystic to be better against Tidebinder Mage anyway, like that might be a fine plan.
Well, as these 2 players do shuffle up here for game number 2, we will talk very quickly about SCG Game Night that is coming here in September, which is right around the corner because, I mean, this year is just basically over.
Went by fast.
Might as well just be done. It's going to be December. I'll be celebrating Christmas in no time. It is worldwide now, of course. September signups, you know, those are done, but October signups can happen. And if your store does participate, and you should, 2 pins and 8 foil tokens per week, new pins and foils each month. It's going to be taking place every single Wednesday. You can find out more information at StarCityGames.com/game night. Use the hashtag SCGN. And if you have to send us an email, GameNight@StarCityGames.com. You can see the beautiful squirrel tokens and squirrel cards there. And the pin, of course. It's going to be really cool. I mean, we're just bringing our organized play to a more casual level every Wednesday. You know, it doesn't have to always be about winning an Open Series and getting a trophy and 20 Open Series points and a bunch of money. Sometimes people just want a game. It can be any format. You guys want to play Commander, you want to play Modern because you love that, you want to play Vintage, by all means. It's just more fun stuff, be able to give away cool prizes because Magic is meant to be fun, first and foremost.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
And it's tough to say no to this, right? Like, I remember growing up and wanting to play as much Magic as possible. It's just like Tuesday night draft, Wednesday night standard, Friday night Magic, blah, blah, blah. Like, maybe there's a sweet tournament on Saturday. You use those to test for that bigger tournament.
Yeah. That's all I did during the week. After high school, I went to the local card shop.
Yep.
That's it, except during wrestling season because I wasn't allowed to do that then.
Sure.
But, yeah, it was just like, hey, Dad, I'm going to the card store. I'll be home at 9. And then that was it. And then I came home and I played Warcraft 3 all night. So, and hopefully my mom made dinner. And if not, that's cool too.
Yeah.
So there you go. SCG Game Night coming in September, just a couple of days away, oddly enough. Do you think this matchup favors Mono Blue or Jund Planeswalkers? Because that game was one-sided.
Yeah, it was super one-sided, but I think generally Mono Blue has the edge. They just kind of present like way too many threats that you have to deal with, and the Planeswalkers aren't particularly good against a bunch of Flyers and Thassa. So it is really tough to get anything going, but I don't know, like Dylan used that rapid hybridization to slow Michael down. He didn't know that he had drawn an Elvish Mystic and had a bunch of lands, but generally like killing their land is going to be pretty good. It just like didn't work out for him. The 3/3 ended up being like a pretty big deal.
Yeah, it wasn't great at all. Dylan going to take a mulligan down to 6 here. As far as players again that we know that are in the top 8, or at least, you know, pretty soft lock, Eric Smith playing Jund Planeswalkers, and then Burn. Burn, 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 burn.
Christopher Kemple.
Yep. Lighting people on fire. So pretty cool. Pretty cool to see a burn deck. I know it was kind of ironic that we talked about that at the beginning of the day. Of just like,
yeah, and it's like, oh, look.
Yeah, why is no one playing this deck? I know you talked to Seth. We were wondering what hand he kept. 2 Rams, no white mana?
A couple Nyx Fleece Rams. Yeah, very obviously no white mana sources. No Dispel, no sort of counter spell, but he had, I think, a Fiendslayer Paladin, an Archangel, maybe a Last Breath. So a lot of white cards.
Donegan mulliganed his 7 very quickly. Let's see if he finds a 6 that he's happy with. No. There's never a great time to mulligan to 5.
No, but certainly being down a game.
Down a game, basically playing for top 8.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's a clean cut or anything, but if nothing else, being 8-1 in a 10-round tournament is where you want to be for sure. You know, that gives you a very good chance of making the elimination rounds.
One thing too, as a player, you're mulliganing now, and what's kind of a poor time to be doing it, but it's obviously not the right way to think about it.
Right.
Like, you could be mulliganing like this round 4.
Yeah, exactly. Dylan could have been 2-1 and mulligan and just be like 2-2 out of the tournament.
Yeah.
Is that better or worse to come so close and then have to mulligan to 5 and that's how you get knocked out?
Yeah.
But also,
it feels bad no matter what.
Yeah, but also we saw Tom Ross win on a mulligan to 5 earlier.
True.
I think this is a good matchup for Dylan. All he needs is just a pretty reasonable start,
Couple lands, couple spells. There's a Judge's Familiar to get things started. I mean, if he can work his way into a turn 3 Thassa, he's actually doing all right.
Yeah.
Here's an Elvish Mystic as Finney does go down to 18. Donegan will draw a card. It's an attack for 1. Finney's going to go down to 17. Cloud from Raptor and just going to pass the turn back. So no second land here for Donegan. Finney will draw a card. It was a copy of Temple of Malice. See if he'll be attacking or maybe ramping a little bit. There's an Abrupt Decay and a Mistcutter Hydra in Finney's hand, and it's going to be an attack here for 1. There's the Temple, so it's time to scry. That card's going to stay on top. There's another Mystic, and the turn will be Donegan's. Donegan will draw a card. It is a second land. Maybe a Tidebinder Mage? Absolutely. Shut down that Mystic, evolve that Cloud from Raptor, and get into the red zone for 2. Not bad.
Yeah, and this is the type of draw that Dylan wants. Obviously, missing his second land drop on turn 2 is not ideal, but it still looks pretty good for him.
Finney will draw a card. It's another copy of Mistcutter Hydra.
And I'm guessing that we just start playing this game.
Just the Hydra game?
Just jam Mistcutter Hydra game.
Yeah, I mean, he's got some removal spells that he could cast. I actually like playing the Mistcutter Hydra game, like play one this turn, play one next turn, start racing. Or you could just play one this turn and hold back to blank the Tidebinder Mage.
Yeah, I mean, I also think playing 2 removal spells this turn is more than fine.
There's a Mizium Mortar to take care of the Cloud from the Raptor. And pass the turn back with the ability to Abrupt Decay the Tidebinder Mage.
Yep.
So that's certainly a good turn as well.
Yeah, and then next turn you get to play a 4/4. And we talked a little bit about this earlier about the right number to Mistcutter Hydra against the Mono Blue Devotion deck, where they have Mutavaults, so you definitely don't want it to be a 2/2, but they could also have 2 Mutavaults, so 3/3 is not that good. Plus Rapid Hybridization makes a 3/3 that they could potentially block with. So I think 4/4 is generally the best number. And killing the Tidebinder Mage frees up his Elvish Mystic, allows you to play a 4/4 Mistcutter Hydra.
Also, the increments, as far as the clock is concerned, 4 is much better than 3.
For sure, yeah. 5-turn clock versus 7.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big difference.
Now, this is going to be a 5/5, so this is going to speed things up even more. Finney will take a little bit of damage to do that, but now we're got a 5/5 coming in the red zone. Donegan's going to go down to 14. Next turn, we could see another one of these things, and this one could be over really before it even started.
Yeah.
Donegan just never got his feet set in this match. Draws a copy of Cloud from the Raptor. This is a rather boring attack for 1 here with Judge's Familiar. There is a Raptor past the turn back. Finney is going to quickly untap. He will draw a card. It's a Scavenging Ooze, which is a pretty good magic card, all things considered, but not as good as another Mistcutter Hydra.
Yeah, and I'm really not sure he's going to need the Ooze this game, right? The second Hydra puts him to 4, and then if Dylan doesn't have an answer to the first Hydra, well, next turn he has to answer 2 of them.
And if the game happens to go longer due to some miracle, well, Scavenging Ooze can probably clean up then. And Dylan will extend the hand. Michael Finney is going to win this match over Dylan Donegan, 2-0. Jund Planeswalkers moves on to 8-1. With any luck for Finney, he's able to draw into the elimination rounds as he gets a pat in the back from his friend. For Donegan, it's not the best time to pick up 2 pretty bad draws. I mean, his draws were bad both games.
Yep.